"Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent," the officer said as he handcuffed me right at my desk, in front of the entire office, watching intently. My credit cards were allegedly linked to $85,000 in fraud. But that was just the beginning of discovering that my sister-in-law had been deceiving the family for 3 years with $300,000 in debt. Hey everyone, if you're watching this, please hit subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Let me tell you the story of how a normal Monday led to me being arrested for a crime I never committed. Everything started 6 months ago, on an autumn evening when I came home early from my law office in downtown Chicago. David, my husband, was working the night shift at the hospital, and I planned to use the quiet time to prepare files for the next day's big case. When I opened the master bedroom door, I saw Sophia, David's sister, kneeling on the floor, her eyes red from crying, hands trembling as she held my grandmother's pearl necklace. The pearl necklace my grandmother had left me before she passed away, the only thing I had left of my family. "Emma, I'm so sorry," Sophia sobbed, tears falling onto the hardwood floor. "I just wanted to borrow it for my friend's birthday party. I didn't mean to break the clasp." The necklace lay on the carpet. The delicate silk thread snapped, white pearls scattered everywhere like fallen tears. This necklace had been passed down from my great-grandmother to grandmother, then to me. 3 generations of strong, resilient women. "Sophia," I sighed, sitting down beside her. "You know you can't come into my room without permission." I know, she nodded repeatedly. "I'll get it fixed, I'll pay for it. Please don't tell David, I'm begging you." Sophia was 23, fresh out of college with a marketing degree from Northwestern, but there was still something naive and endearing about her. An oval face with big brown eyes, long, straight blonde hair. She looked like a Disney princess. David always said his sister needed time to find her path. "All right," I finally said, helping her collect the scattered pearls. "But next time you have to ask permission first, okay?" Thank you so much." Sophia hugged me tightly, the scent of Chanel No. 5 wafting from her neck. Strange, that perfume seemed familiar. I thought I was being too suspicious. Sophia was my husband's sister. She was young, just starting out in life. An expensive perfume could be a graduation gift from her parents. Or maybe she had saved up to buy it. I didn't want to become the difficult sister-in-law who was always suspicious of everything. But 2 weeks later, I couldn't find the black Louboutin heels I had just bought for the company's charity gala. I clearly remembered putting them in the shoe closet, but now they had vanished without a trace. "Have you seen my black heels?" I asked David when he came home from his night shift, looking exhausted after 12 hours in the emergency room. "Which ones?" he asked drowsily, taking off his blue scrubs. "You have so many shoes, I can't keep track of them all." True, I did have many shoes. My law career required me to dress professionally and impeccably, but those Louboutins were special. I had saved 3 months' salary to buy them, and they were brand new. I searched the entire house, even checking the garage and basement. Nothing, as if they had simply vanished into thin air. That weekend, we hosted a family barbecue in the backyard. David's parents, some friends from the hospital, and of course Sophia. She arrived in a stunning red meaty dress, elegant and form-fitting, looking like something from a fashion magazine. "Beautiful dress, Sophia," David's mother complimented. "Where did you get it?" "Oh, I just bought it online," Sophia answered vaguely, avoiding my gaze. But I recognized that dress. It looked exactly like the red dress I had ordered online from Nordstrom the week before, an item I had chosen for an important client meeting. The dress I couldn't find anywhere in the house. "Sophia," I called softly, pulling her aside to a corner. "This dress, are you sure you bought it yourself?" Sophia's face turned bright red. "What do you mean?" "You know what I mean." There was a long moment of silence, only the sound of laughter and conversation from everyone else and the sizzling of meat on the grill. Finally, Sophia's shoulders slumped. I was just borrowing it," she whispered. "I was going to return it right after using it. You have so many beautiful clothes, and I—" "Sophia, this isn't about having many or few," I interrupted. "This is about asking permission and respecting other people's property. I know, I'm sorry. This time I really am sorry." I looked at her pleading face, tears beginning to well up. Part of me wanted to be strict, but another part felt sympathy. Sophia had just graduated, didn't have a stable job yet, was still living off her parents' money. Maybe she just wanted to look good to feel more confident. All right, I sighed. But this is the last time, Sophia. Do you understand? I understand. Thank you for being understanding. But that wasn't the last time. Over the following weeks, I began paying more attention. A bottle of Tom Ford perfume disappeared from my vanity. The Michael Kors handbag I kept in the car closet vanished. Even some small jewelry, diamond earrings, a silver bracelet, all gradually disappeared. Every time I asked David, he seemed tired and annoyed. "Honey, I can't keep track of everything in the house," he said when I asked about the bracelet. "Maybe you misplaced it. You know you're forgetful sometimes." "You think I forgot? These are important items to me." Okay. He put his hand on my shoulder. "I'll talk to Sophia, remind her to be more careful when she comes to our house." But I noticed David never really confronted the issue. He always found ways to deflect, protect his sister, as if Sophia was still a 10-year-old child who needed sheltering instead of a grown woman. Then came the day I discovered the horrifying truth. This past March, I received a call from Chase Bank. "We're calling to verify some unusual transactions on your credit card," a polite female voice said. "There's a 3-5 years $500 charge at Neiman Marcus yesterday and $1,800 at Saks Fifth Avenue the day before. Did you make these transactions?" My heart seemed to stop beating. "No, I didn't buy anything. I've been at the office for the past 2 days. We'll freeze the card immediately and begin an investigation. Do you suspect anyone who might have access to your card?" I knew the answer, but didn't want to believe it. Didn't want to face the truth that was gradually emerging before my eyes. "I'll check and get back to you," I said, and hung up. That night, when David went to work the night shift, I sat in the home office and began investigating. I logged into all my bank accounts, checking every transaction over the past 3 months. What I discovered was staggering. Not just the Chase credit card. American Express, $4,200 at Bloomingdale's. Visa, $2,100 at Designer Shoe Warehouse. MasterCard, $1,800 at Anthropology. A total of over $25,000 in 3 months. Someone had access to my wallet, to all my credit cards. Someone who knew the PINs, knew the billing address, knew all my personal information. With trembling hands, I opened Facebook and searched for Sophia's account. What I saw made my blood run cold. Photos of her at a 3 Michelin-star restaurant downtown. Check-ins at a luxury spa in Gold Coast. A selfie with a new Hermes bag. A bag worth over $8,000. Weekend trips to Napa Valley, staying at 5-star resorts. All within the past 3 months. How could a recent college graduate with no job afford to spend like this? I continued scrolling. Photos of her wearing the red dress, my dress, wearing Louboutin heels, my missing shoes, wearing the diamond bracelet, the jewelry that had disappeared from my closet. All the pieces began falling into place. Sophia wasn't just borrowing my things. She had stolen my credit cards and was using them to fund a lavish lifestyle she couldn't afford. But I needed more concrete evidence. The next morning, I called the bank and requested detailed reports of all transactions over the past 6 months. I also contacted the stores to request security camera footage and receipts. What I received was like a slap in the face. Video from Neiman Marcus clearly showed Sophia standing at the checkout counter, using my credit card to buy a Coach bag and jewelry set. She even forged a signature she had practiced to mimic mine. Receipts from Saks Fifth Avenue showed she had purchased an entire fall collection from Tory Burch. Video from Designer Shoe Warehouse showed her trying on and buying 7 pairs of shoes in 1 day. But the most horrifying discovery was that this wasn't new activity. When I dug deeper, I realized Sophia had been doing this since David and I got married 3 years ago. She had slowly, systematically gained access to my financial information. The first time was probably just a small transaction, $50 for lunch with friends. When she saw I didn't notice, she became bolder. $200 for a shirt, $500 for a night at the club. And gradually, these amounts escalated to thousands of dollars. I printed all the evidence, receipts, screenshots from social media, security camera videos. I created a thick file, organized chronologically, documenting every transaction in detail. David came home Saturday morning, looking exhausted after a long night shift. I waited for him to shower and eat breakfast before presenting all the evidence. "You need to look at this," I said, placing the file on the coffee table. David opened the file, his face gradually paling as he went through each page. He read silently for 15 minutes, occasionally sighing or shaking his head. "Are you sure this is Sophia?" he finally asked, his voice trembling. "You can see the security camera video. That's definitely your sister." David leaned back in his chair, covering his face with both hands. "I can't believe it. How could she do this? The more important question is, what are you going to do about it now?" There was a long moment of silence. I heard the tick-tock of the wall clock, cars passing by outside, my heart pounding in my chest. "I'll talk to her," David finally said. "I'll tell her to stop and pay the money back." "David, this isn't something you can talk through anymore. This is criminal. Your sister has stolen over $50,000 from us." "Don't call the police," he pleaded. "This is family. We can handle it internally." And I agreed. Because I loved David. Because I didn't want to destroy his family. Because I believed everyone deserved a second chance. That was the biggest mistake of my life. If you're finding this story interesting, please hit like and subscribe to see more engaging content. Now let me tell you how things got much worse. David had talked to Sophia. She cried, apologized, promised never to do it again. She even wrote a handwritten apology letter, promising to pay back every penny. For 2 months, everything seemed normal. No strange transactions on the credit cards. Sophia visited the house less often. And when she did, she seemed embarrassed, behaving carefully. I began to think that maybe we had handled it the right way. Maybe Sophia had truly learned her lesson. Until that day, the day I was arrested. Monday, August 15th, I was sitting in my office preparing for the afternoon court session when 2 police officers walked in. The entire 15th floor of the Willis Tower could hear their boots on the hardwood floor. "Emma Rodriguez?" the tall officer asked. "Yes, that's me," I replied, feeling an ominous premonition. "You're under arrest for credit card fraud and money laundering charges. You have the right to remain silent." The rest became a blur. I heard whispers from colleagues, phone cameras clicking, my boss, James Morrison, shouting, "What the hell is going on?" As they led me out of the building in handcuffs, I saw familiar faces. Colleagues, clients, even some judges. All looking at me with shock and suspicion. At the police station, I learned the truth. Someone had reported that I was using multiple fake credit cards for luxury shopping. They had video of me at high-end stores, receipts with my signature, and most importantly, the testimony from a witness who claimed to have seen me using fake cards. That witness was Sophia. "What did she say?" I asked my lawyer, Janet Kim, an experienced woman in her 50s with years of criminal law experience. "She claimed she saw you using multiple credit cards with different names, and when she confronted you, you admitted you were gaming the system. She said she was scared and decided to report it because she didn't want to become an accomplice." I sat there in the cold interrogation room, feeling like the world was collapsing around me. Sophia hadn't just stolen from me. She had set me up as the perpetrator to protect herself. "We need evidence," Janet said. "Do you have anything that can prove Sophia was the one actually making these transactions?" "I have everything," I said. "Videos, receipts, photos from social media. I collected it all months ago." It took 2 days to sort everything out. 2 days I had to take off work. 2 days of suspicious looks from everyone. 2 days when my professional reputation built over 10 years was shaken. Finally, the evidence spoke for itself. Security camera footage clearly showed Sophia, not me. The signatures on receipts, when analyzed by experts, were determined to be forgeries. And most importantly, when police checked Sophia's phone, they found hundreds of photos of her with items purchased with my money. The charges against me were dropped. Instead, Sophia was arrested. But the damage was done. The night Sophia was arrested, David came home with a pale face. He sat on the sofa, head down, not saying a word for 15 minutes. "You knew, didn't you?" I finally asked. David looked up, his eyes red. "What do you mean?" "You knew what Sophia did. Not just the theft. You knew she reported me to the police." There was a long moment of silence. Then David nodded slowly. "She called me before going to report," he admitted. "She said she was scared of being discovered and needed a plan. I told her not to do it, but you didn't stop her. I thought she was just talking." I didn't believe she would actually do it. I looked at the man I had married 3 years ago, the man I loved, the man I trusted more than anyone, and I realized he had chosen to protect his sister instead of his wife. "You let me get arrested," I said, my voice cold as ice. "You knew the truth, but you still let them handcuff me in front of the entire office." "Honey, I'm sorry. I didn't know what to do. Sophia is my sister, my family." "And what am I? Am I not family?" David remained silent, and the answer was clear. That night, I lay in the guest bed, staring at the ceiling and thinking about the past 3 years of marriage. How many times had David covered for Sophia? How many times had he chosen his birth family over me? And most importantly, could I continue living with someone who was willing to let me take the blame for his sister's crimes? While waiting for Sophia's trial, I decided to investigate her financial situation more deeply. With the help of a private detective Janet introduced me to, we discovered a web of fraud far more complex than I had imagined. Sophia wasn't just using my credit cards. She had also borrowed money from payday loan companies, using my personal information as guarantor. She had opened multiple credit accounts in my name, accumulating a total of over $300,000 in debt. "How could she do this?" I asked Marcus, the private detective. "She had access to your home for 3 years," he explained. "She could easily photograph important documents: Social Security card, passport, bank statements. With that information, she could open any account." The list of what Sophia had bought was staggering. Not just clothes and shoes. She had rented a studio apartment in Gold Coast for $4,000 a month. She bought a new BMW convertible. She even went to Europe twice, staying at 5-star hotels, all with my money. But the strangest thing, Marcus said, is that she still lived with her parents. She maintained the image of a good girl who hadn't found suitable work, while actually living like a millionaire. I looked at the photos Marcus had taken. Sophia stepping out of the BMW, Sophia at a Michelin restaurant, Sophia carrying a new Chanel bag. All taken during the time she was job hunting and financially struggling. "Does her family know?" I asked. "I don't think so. They think she just occasionally goes out with friends. She's very good at hiding." That's when I decided it was time to expose the truth to everyone. David's father's 60th birthday took place at the end of September. This was a big event. The extended family, friends from the hospital, about 40 people gathered at David's parents' house in Lincolnwood. Sophia had been released on bail pending trial, and she showed up at the party as if nothing had happened. She wore a simple pastel dress, light makeup, looking like an angel. "Emma, dear," David's mother hugged me. "I'm so sorry about what happened. I know it was just a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding. As if being accused of fraud and arrested at the office was just a minor incident. Throughout the party, I observed Sophia. She played with the little kids, helped David's mother in the kitchen, chatted sweetly with the aunts and uncles. Everyone loved her, the beautiful, sweet sister who hadn't found her direction in life yet. No one knew about the BMW in the garage. No one knew about the luxury apartment. No one knew about the $300,000 debt. When it came time to cut the birthday cake, David's father stood up to make a speech. "Thank you all for being here," he said, raising his champagne glass. "Family is the most important thing. Nothing can divide us." That's when I stood up. "I have something to say," I announced, my voice loud enough for everyone to hear. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to me. I saw David looking worried, Sophia pale, and David's parents confused. "As everyone knows, I recently went through some legal difficulties," I began. "I was accused of credit card fraud. Some people in this room know that those charges were dropped." Whispers began, but I continued. "What people don't know is who actually committed those frauds, and why." I pulled out my iPad and opened the photo album I had prepared. "This is Sophia at Neiman Marcus," I said, passing the iPad for everyone to see. "She's using my credit card to buy a $3,500 bag." Gasps echoed throughout the room. "This is Sophia at the BMW dealership," I continued. "She just bought a $65,000 car, with a loan that has me as the guarantor." "Emma, that's enough." David stood up. "No, it's not enough," I said, my voice firm. "This is Sophia at the Gold Coast apartment she rents for $4,000 a month. This is her in Paris last month, all funded by money stolen from me." David's mother covered her mouth, eyes filled with tears. David's father sat down heavily like a stone. In total, I said, turning to face Sophia, you stole and borrowed $347,000 using my name. You lived like a millionaire for 3 years, while everyone thought you were finding yourself. Sophia stood there, no more tears, no more apologies. For the first time, I saw her true self. Cold, calculating, unrepentant. Do you have anything to say? I asked. Can you prove any of this? Sophia replied, her voice eerily calm. These are just accusations. I smiled and pulled out a thick file. Here are receipts from 23 different stores. Here are security camera videos. Here are apartment rental contracts. Here are car purchase agreements, all with forged signatures of my name, but executed by you. I slammed the file down on the table with a loud thud. And this, I said, pulling out the final paper, is a report from payday loan companies. You borrowed $50,000 from 5 different companies using my information, with 400% annual interest rates. The silence in the room could be cut with a knife. Everyone looked at Sophia as if seeing her for the first time. Emma, we're sorry, David's father finally said. We didn't know. You didn't know because Sophia is very good at deception, I replied. But there was one person who knew. I turned to look at David. My husband knew. He knew Sophia had reported me to the police to protect herself. He knew and didn't stop it. 2 weeks after the party, creditors began showing up at the house. Not polite bank lenders. These were people from payday loan companies, people who didn't care about legal processes. They came on a Friday afternoon when David's entire family was gathered for dinner. 3 large men in black suits, standing at the door with emotionless faces. We're looking for Emma Rodriguez, the leader said. She owes us $50,000 plus interest, total of $73,000. I'm here, I said, stepping forward, but I didn't borrow money from you. Your signature is on the contract. He handed me a stack of papers. Your address, your social security number. I looked through the documents. All my information, but the familiar forged signature. This isn't my signature, I said. That's your problem to sort out in court, the man replied. We just want our money. That's when Sophia appeared from inside the house, her face white as paper. This is the person who borrowed the money, I said, pointing at her. My name was used without consent. The 3 men looked at Sophia, then back at me. You can prove that in court, the leader said. But until then, we'll be collecting the collateral. What collateral? David's father asked, his voice trembling. This house was registered as collateral for the loan, the man replied. If we don't have the money in 48 hours, we'll begin foreclosure proceedings. The world seemed to spin around me. Sophia had mortgaged David's parents' house, the house they had lived in for 35 years, the house that contained all the family's memories. After the men left, the entire family sat in the living room, everyone shocked and silent. David's mother cried quietly. David's father held his head in his hands. David stared at the floor. And Sophia, for the first time in 3 years, knelt down in front of me. Emma, please, she cried. I know I did wrong. I'll do anything to make it right. But right now, only you can save this family. She was right. With my lawyer's salary and savings, I could pay this debt. I could save David's parents' house. You're the only one with enough money, Sophia continued. I know you're kind-hearted. I know you can't let David's parents lose their home. Everyone looked at me with hopeful eyes. David's parents, who had always been good to me. David, the husband I still loved despite everything that had happened. And Sophia, kneeling before me, finally showing some remorse. I stood there in long silence, feeling the weight of the decision. I could forgive one more time. I could save this family. I could be the hero. Or I could choose self-respect. I looked down at Sophia, who was still kneeling before me with tears streaming down her face. Then I looked at David, who couldn't meet my eyes. Finally, I looked at David's parents. 2 people I had considered like my own parents for the past 3 years. No, I said, my voice calm and clear. No one spoke. The entire room was shocked by my answer. What did you say? Sophia asked, as if she couldn't believe her ears. I said no, I repeated, stronger. I will not pay your debts. I will not save this house. I will not continue to be the person who cleans up the consequences of your actions. But Emma, David's mother said, her voice full of desperation. This is our home. will have nowhere to go. My heart ached. I loved David's parents, but I couldn't continue destroying myself to save people who refused to take responsibility. I forgave once, I said, turning to face the entire family. When I first discovered Sophia stealing from me, I chose tolerance. I believed in the possibility of change. I believed in family. I paused, taking a breath. But you took advantage of my kindness. Sophia continued stealing, lying, and finally even sent me to jail to protect herself. David knew and didn't stop it. And all of you assumed I would always be here to clean up the mess. I walked toward the door. Sophia, you created this problem. You solve it. David, you chose your sister over your wife. Now live with the consequences of that choice. Emma, don't go. David stood up. We can work this out. We can fix this. I turned back to look at him, the man I had spent 3 years of my life with, the man I had trusted with all my heart. David, some things can't be fixed, I said. And some people don't deserve a second chance. I looked around the room one last time. I don't owe this family anything, I declared. I only owe myself. I owe myself a life where I don't have to constantly forgive people who have betrayed me. And with those words, I walked out the door, out of the house, out of the family that had taken me for granted for too long. Thank you for following this story to the end. Now let me tell you about my life after that decision. 6 months have passed since I left David's family. I moved to a 1-bedroom apartment in Lincoln Park, near Lake Michigan. Much smaller than the house I shared with David, but it's completely mine. Sophia was sentenced to 3 years in prison for fraud and identity theft. She's serving her time at Cook County Jail. David has tried to contact me many times, but I've blocked his phone number and changed my email address. David's parents lost their house. They had to move to a small apartment in the suburbs, and I heard they're still struggling financially. Part of me feels guilty, but the larger part feels relieved that I finally stopped being a savior for people who didn't want to save themselves. What about my career? After the scandal of being arrested, I lost some clients, but the understanding clients stayed, and I even got some new cases from people who had been through similar situations. It turns out there are many people who have been deceived and taken advantage of by family. I learned something important over the past 6 months. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is let them face the consequences of their actions. Constantly forgiving without real change only encourages bad behavior. I don't regret my decision. For the first time in years, I feel free. Free from always having to be the kind person, the one who always forgives, the one who always sacrifices for family. If you were me in that situation, what would you do? Would you choose to forgive and save the family, or choose self-respect and walk away? Please comment and let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear different perspectives. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see more stories about finding the strength to set boundaries, say no, and choose yourself over people who have taken advantage of your kindness. Remember, you don't have an obligation to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Sometimes self-love is the most courageous act you can perform.